What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you a pure Infernoid profile. That's right, the Banlist did give this a nice little bit of a buff by returning That Grass Looks Greener to 1. However, I realised that I haven't actually done a pure profile for Infernoids for a long time, and I thought this would be the perfect time to show you an update of this version. Now, I've actually designed this deck to go second and be a lot more aggressive as an OTK alternative than going first. It is above 40 cards, it's about 45 cards. I've decided not to go for the 60 card version, as I also feel that there will be 60 card decks all over the place. But what I do like about the idea of this, and you can still utilise That Grass That's Greener by going second to give yourself more mill chances, as well as by playing a 45 card deck, you're always going to have a few more cards than your opponent. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. If you get a video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours, I'll bring you either a test stand video or a combo video for the deck as well. So diving headfirst into the profile, start off with the monsters being triple Infernoid Decatron. Now this card acts as a Foolish Berry, as well as being able to set up either a monster negate or a spell and trap negate, because the main target it's going to want to send is either going to be a Nonku or of course will be Deviati. Now these are your boss monsters from the main deck. The idea is that both of these could be summoned back from the graveyard, and all of the Infernoids, or the big Infernoids, have the exact same effect, that they cannot be normal summoned and they must be special summoned from your hand or graveyard, these ones particular, by banishing 3 Inferno monster from your hand or graveyard, while the total levels and ranks of all effect monsters you control are 8 or lower. That's why the ability of the new fusion monsters are so good for the deck, and of course the link summoning mechanic that we didn't have when we first got this deck makes it absolutely insane, because you just bring out monsters, link them off, go again, bring out monsters, link off, go again. So it's absolutely insane. As long as you have the materials to banish, you're going to be able to keep summoning back to the board. Then of course we do, well, I should probably finish off by explaining these effects. So obviously a Nonku gives the ability, or when Decatron sends an Inferno from deck to grave, it copies the level and the effect of the monster that is sent. So the reason you send a Nonku and Deviati is a Nonku has the ability that this one allows you to, during either player's turn, when a spell or trap card or effect is activated, you get to tribute a monster and negate the activation. If you do, banish that card. Whereas Deviati has the ability to do that when a monster effect is activated. However, when you summon either of these two, they will have additional effects. So when you summon a Nonku, it will destroy all monsters, all other monsters on the field. And when you summon Deviati, it will destroy all spells and trap cards on the field except void cards. So you've obviously got your own inbuilt Harpy's Feather Duster and your own inbuilt, well, technically Heavy Storm, and your own inbuilt Dark Hole as well, which is really kind of cool. Then for the other higher level monsters, we do play the one Sujet. And the reason you play the one Sujet is that when you do activate and resolve your Void Feast, wherever it may be, you're going to need to be able to send, because ideally what you're trying to do is you're trying to summon out 2 Decatrons, because then you can send a Deviati and an Nonku to give you the spell and the monster effect negation. So the Sujet is the other monster, because what you do is you need to go up to the levels of the combined of what you want to send. For the Void Feast, there we go, let's just put it here. So this one, you send a Void Spell or Trap from the hand or face up from the field to the graveyard to special summon up to 3 Infernal monsters from the deck, whose total levels equal 8, ignoring their summoning conditions. So obviously you went to use Sujet, which is obviously a level 6, and then you're going to be using 2 Decatrons, which make it a level 8. So that's why you need the Sujet, because you need to be exactly level 8, which does get a little bit particular. And then the other big monsters we play is the one Sightsamus. So this one has the ability that if it attacks at an opponent's monster, you get to banish 1 card on the field. And then once per turn, quick effect, you get to tribute 1 monster, target a card in your opponent's graveyard, and banish it. And this one needs you to banish 2 Infernal monsters to special summon this from the hand or the graveyard. We've got the one Aund. So this one again banishes the 2 Infernoids, summons it back from the hand or the graveyard, and then on top of that as well, when this card declares an attack on an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, or destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you activate the effect. It can make a second attack in a row, which is a little bit different from some of the modern cards, because most of them was like make an attack on a monster, whereas Aund was able to just attack again. It also has the exact same effect to tribute a monster to target a card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it as a quick effect, so it has a nice quick effect DD Crow-esque effect. And then for the lower levels, we've got the one Petrulio. So this one again requires you to banish a 1 Inferno monster, but it can only summon itself from the hand, not the graveyard like the bigger boss monsters. Again, this one is once per turn it gets a target spell trap on the field and destroy it. It cannot attack the turn you activate this effect. And then again, during your opponent's turn, you get to tribute 1 monster to target card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it, and it is a quick effect. So obviously some of the bigger monsters are more effective because they can do it during either player's turn, whereas the Petrulios and the smaller ones will only be able to do it during your opponent's turn. Speaking of the other smaller ones, we do play the 1 Harmadink. So again, can't be normal summon a set. Special summon by banishing 1 Inferno monster, so you can banish this to summon it from the hand. And then on top of that as well, you get to target 1 monster on the field, destroy it, and then it can't attack. And it has the quick effect during your opponent's turn to tribute a monster to target a card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it. The 1 Antra. So this one, again, banishes an Inferno monster from the hand or graveyard to summon it down. It can only special summon from the hand. And then once per turn, you get to target a face-up card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. And then again, DD Crow during your opponent's turn. And then Primus gives you that ability that neither player can activate. So once per turn, you get to target a set card on the field, shuffle it into the deck, and neither player can activate that card in response to this card's activation. And then again, during your opponent's turn, quick effect, tribute, and DD Crow. So obviously the idea is you're getting a back row lock, a bounce, a monster effect, a monster pop, and a spell and trap pop. So obviously your small ones are just there to get that body on the board, to then get rid of them and then build up on the back of it. For the Void spells, we do play triple Void Imagination. This card is absolutely insane going second. So Infernal monsters you control whose original levels are 2 or higher become level 1. So it means you're no longer locked under some of the abilities that like as long as your levels are at 8 or higher. It lets you turn an Onku down to a level 1, to a level 2, so you can then continue to keep playing. Level 2. However, all battle damage they inflict to your opponent is halved, but if you get rid of the Void Imagination, you don't care about that half. You can send this card to the graveyard to fusion summon an Infernoid fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or your side of the field as fusion material. If your opponent controls a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck and you do not, you can also use up to 6 monsters in your deck as fusion material. So the idea is you do have direct access to Tierra, but you also have direct access to the evil. So 2 Infernoids, or of course you get to send a load of Infernoids, including your big boss monsters of Anunku and Deviati. So this is going to act like a 6 times Foolish Berry, and then once you do something like that, your Tierra is just an insanely powerful boss monster, and it will start ripping stuff from your opponent's extra deck and hand and graveyard and everything else. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. And then of course we've got triple Void Vanishment. Discard a card to add a Void spell or traps. It's how you get more consistency to get to Imagination if you need it, or if you're going to be going first, it can get you into your Void Feast. From the deck to the hand, accept itself or null and void. Also, you cannot normal summon or special summon for the rest of the turn except Infernoids. You can only use each effect once per turn, and if a Inferno monster you control battles an opponent's monster, after damage calculation, you get to send this card to the graveyard to banish those monsters. So again, it's just being able to clear your opponent's monsters out without letting them float to the graveyard. We've then got 2 Reignition. Now, arguably, you'd probably be playing this at 3. I just don't own a 3rd copy right now. But this one lets you reveal an Inferno monster or a Void spell and trap in your hand, discard your entire hand, and then draw the same number of cards you discarded. If you control no monsters or all monsters you control are fiends, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, banish this card from the graveyard to target up to 11 of your banished Inferno monsters with different names and return them to the graveyard. You can only use that effect once per turn. Now, that effect is absolutely insane, but like I said, because we're going a bit more aggressive, we're probably going to be using its first effect, if anything, just to get a refresh of your hand, which is why it's not entirely important to be at 3, but you still want to consistently see it. And the last Void card that we play is the Void Seer. This just allows you to target an Inferno monster you control and is unaffected by your opponent's card effects this turn. And then if an Infernoid monster or monster you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you get to banish it from the graveyard instead of destroying one of those monsters. And then you get to play a lot of power play spell cards. So you get to play Foolish Berry, which will obviously be able to set up any of your Infernos that you need in the graveyard. You got your 1 Monster Gate, tribute off any of your Inferno monsters to excavate the top cards of your deck, and then until you excavate a monster that can be normal summoned or set, and the only monster in your main deck that can be normal summoned or set, bar the hand trap in the form of Nibiru, will of course be Decatron. So it just gives you the idea to flood out your extra deck, get a Decatron to the board, and then build up from there. Then of course you do play the 1 That Grass Looks Greener. So this one, if you are unfamiliar with this, is if you have more cards in your deck than your opponent does, send the cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard so that you have the same number of cards in your deck. So this is really important. It's just an insanely powerful mill card. Obviously it's only at 1. You can play Left Arm Offering to search it, but I feel that a better option, especially if we're going to be going second, will of course be Triple Tactics Thrust. The other power spell cards you can play is Reasoning, just again another mill card. 1 Instant Fusion, this can get you into your Infernoid Evil. And then I like the idea of playing 2 Dark Hole because sometimes you want to destroy your own monsters, sometimes they want to stop the Anunku, and just being able to go, okay, cool, complete board wipe for both players, let's start again, can be really cool, and can really catch your opponent off guard. You don't have to play this because obviously Anunku is naturally a Dark Hole itself anyway, but the idea is if your opponent tries to stop it, because you are going second, you just have more access to board breakers, and it's another card you can get off of your Triple Tactics Thrust if you don't, if you already open up That Grass Looks Greener. So speaking of which, 2 Trill Tactics Thrust, pretty straightforward and simple on that one, and then 2 Trill Tactic Talents, just because, again, going second, so I've kind of ideally gone for the most effective go second board breakers, interrupters, and just ways to punish your opponent if they do dare to hand trap you. And the last cards is just a hand trap lineup of your particular Trojans or board breakers. So I went with Triple Nibiru. I just feel that in this format, this card's going to be absolutely insane, especially with no Appaloosa running around. It's going to be a lot harder to stop it. Triple Forbidden Droplet, like sending your Infernoids to negate your opponent's board and then being able to bring most of your Infernoids back is just mentally insane. And then Triple Imperm, as again, it's probably like the best hand trap that doesn't trigger effects, like stuff like Triple Tactic Talents and Triple Tactics Thrust, and it gives you that ability to play it going first or second, whereas Ash is a little bit more specific to what your opponent is playing, how they're playing it, and then obviously it does run headfirst into a Triple Tactics Thrust or Talents, whereas Imperm gives you that ability to set, turn off floodgates, it gives you that ability to drop it during your turn, drop it during your opponent's turn, and can really cause a lot of issues. So that's it for the entire main deck. Moving on to the extra deck, once I tidy this pile up. So moving on to the extra deck, we'll start off with the Infernoid cards themselves. Of course, you are going to be starting off with 1 Infernoid Tierra. You can play 2 of this if you want to. I'll show you the range of cards that I've decided to put in here instead, but it's entirely up to you whether you want to use those cards or not. So this one requires a Nonku, Deviati, and then 1 or more Infernoid monsters. When this card is fusion summoned, you get to apply the effects in sequence depending on the number of fusion materials with different names used for this card summon. So obviously if you're using the Send 6, you're going to pretty much be able to get loads. So 3 or more, each player sends 3 cards from their extra deck to the graveyard. 5 or more, each player sends the top 3 cards of their deck to the graveyard. 8 or more, each player returns up to 3 of their banished cards to the graveyard. And then 10 or more, each player sends their entire hand to the graveyard. Now, obviously, you're not going to want to focus on resolving them as much, but if you did, that's when you start putting stuff like Elder Entity into the extra decks. You're just going to get a little bit more when you are using those effects. But the idea is it's just an insanely powerful boss monster that just gets you everything you need to go. And like I said, it's just so incredibly easy to summon when you are going to be using a card like Void Imagination, because this one's going to allow you to use up to 6 more monsters from your deck as material as well. And then, of course, you do play 2 Infernoid Evil, so this is the newer card, and the fact that it's a level 1 means you are not locking yourself under the level restriction that some of your other cards do put on you, and the deck does in general. So this requires 2 Inferno monsters, and if it is fusion summoned, you get to banish an Infernoid monster from your graveyard, and then you get to send Inferno monsters with different names from your deck to the graveyard equal to that banished monster's level. If this card is sent to the graveyard or banished, you get to add a Void spell or trap from the deck to the hand, so it's just got crazy amounts of consistency, and that's why Instant Fusion is also insanely good in this deck. And then before we get onto the rest of the links, the final Inferno monster we play is the 1 Infernoid Flood. So this is 2 monsters including an Infernoid monster. So just leave, as long as it adds up to link 4, you'll be absolutely fine. So when your opponent would special summon a monster or monsters, quick effect, you get to tribute 1 monster to negate the summon. And if you do, you banish that monster or monsters. If a card or cards is banished from your graveyard, except during a damage state, you get to banish 1 card on the field. And then if this link summon card in its owner's control is destroyed by an opponent's card, you get to special summon an Inferno monster from the deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So then, what could we use that is quite like Inferno Flood, and it's basically like its brother? Well, Topologic Zero Boris. What I really like about this, but considering we're going second, is you're able to summon out Zero Boris, and then because you've completed your board off of all the levels, you make that 1 sacrifice of summoning back an Infernoid, trigger this, clear off the entire board, and then you'll be able to bring this back during the next standby phase if you need it. Otherwise, by playing that 1 sacrifice, you've completely cleared off everything you need to worry about. So, if another monster is special to a zone this card points to, while this monster is on the field, banish all cards on the field. So you basically play very reserved, and the idea is you're going to work your way up into a Zero Boris, you're going to use Zero Boris, you're going to summon 1 back to a zone it points to, trigger Zero Boris, clear off your opponent's entire board, and then go, okay, well I've got no levels restricting me on my board, I'm just going to go again, and you start building up into your Infernoids and then pushing for an OTK. And then for the other link foils we play that help you complete OTKs, you've got stuff like Access Code Talker. Like, I feel you can just abuse link monsters in this deck. It's like no tomorrow. So I'm going to show you a range of cards. I haven't even put SP Little Knight in here, but the idea is that you can just play so many different boss monsters, and you kind of just want to work your way up in the link stages to push for an OTK. So you've got Access Code, you've got the Zelantis into Raging Phoenix from Princess combo if you want to. You don't have to play this one. You can very easily go and play with the Amber Whale instead. And then, of course, you do have stuff like Heat of the Fire Charmer, Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Unicorn, Moon of the Closed Heavens, because you're going second. It's just a great generic link too that gets to go, okay, cool. Effect, link with that monster, and then link with that monster to then make Underworld Goddess. And then the final card is Relinquish Anima, because Decatron gets negated, turn Decatron into Anima, still one of your opponent's monsters. So you're just using a range of cards that just have ways of being able to bait out interactions, break boards on their own, deal with towers. It just gives you so much to work with. And like I said, I wanted to make this more Link focused because I feel that Infernoid's just abused the living heck out of Links when they're then being able to go, okay, cool, Link, it kind of reminds me of the Natasha play in Drytrons where they were just like, okay, cool, summon Natasha, gain life points, steal one of your opponent's monsters, put it back to the graveyard. Steal one of your opponent's monsters, gain life points, put it back to the graveyard. And just linked their way up from like Unicorn, Phoenix to Unicorn to Access Code and then just smashed in for an OTK. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much it for an updated Infernoid build. This is a pure build. Like I said, you can make it better. Of course, you want to smack in some Snake Eyes or some Witches and, you know, everything in between. You can do. If you want to put in the Fiendsmiths, of course you can do. You have the flexibility to do so. I just wanted to be a little bit different. I wanted to show you a pure version. I wanted to show you what the deck could look like. And I also wanted to show you that you could play that Grasslet's Greener as a go second option without needing to worry about being a 60 card deck to hurt your consistency of a deck like Infernoid's. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this. Any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them. But for now, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.